Right, brilliant. Okay, so we'll make a start then. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining the oral health training today. And we're going to give you some key messages to go back to your, your holiday clubs, and hopefully, be able to provide these to the children and some of the families that you care for as well. We are recording this session because I know there's some staff members that aren't able to attend today. We would recommend just popping yourselves on mute whilst we're training, just because sometimes you get that feedback. But please feel free at any time to come off mute and ask any questions as we go along, or use the chat box. Either Sarah or I will pick up any messages that come up throughout as well. We like to make it a bit interactive as well. So if you are able to have your camera on, we love to see your faces. So please do. And yeah, just feel free to have a chat with us along the way. So my name is Toya, and I'm an oral health improvement practitioner for Community Dental Services, and I work with my colleague Sarah, who's also on the training today. She is in the same role, but she also is a dental nurse and currently works in a domiciliary service, so she goes out to care homes with the dentist as well. I'm just going to tell you a bit about Community Dental Services, just to give you some background information. So we, on the clinical side, we have 8 clinics across Essex, and we provide a dental service for people with complex and additional needs, that's adults and children, and we're a referral-only service. So there is a criteria that child would have to meet, but as professionals, you could potentially refer someone into us if they do meet our criteria, but do have a look before you go through the forms, or have a chat with our referrals team if you think there's someone you might want to refer in just before you complete all the forms. In Colchester, we have a wheelchair tipper for anyone that is in a wheelchair, and we also have a bariatric chair as well. And we also have a domiciliary service for bedbound patients, so we go out to care settings or anyone in their own home who can't access a dentist for physical reasons as well. So that's our sort of clinical side of things. The aims of the training today are to increase your confidence and knowledge in providing oral health advice to the children that you care for and the parents and the carers as well. And we're going to cover quite a lot. So we've got a 45-minute slot, and we plan to cover quite a lot in that time. There are all the objectives on there. I won't read them. You can see them yourself. I'm just going to give you a few statistics just to kind of give you an understanding about the state of oral health in children in this country and how important this training is. So we know that the areas of higher deprivation will correlate with higher experience of dental decay. So in Essex particularly, it's 14% of under 5s will need treatment. And if any of you work in the Southend and Thurrock area, it's actually slightly higher at 20% as well. We like to use the picture of the jar of teeth on the screen there. This was from one afternoon in theatre. These are extracted teeth, and 16 of those were from 1 2-year-old, which is terrible. And every 10 minutes in the UK, a child is having a tooth extracted. So this is all completely preventable, and it has been described as a national disgrace that this is happening, because I know access is an issue at the moment, but dentistry is free for children. So that's why this training is so important, and you're so well placed in the roles that you're in to deliver these messages as well. So it's just to give you a bit of an understanding around the statistics there. I popped this one in just to make you aware, really. Obviously, you'll all have your safeguarding training anyway, but just to highlight that dental neglect may come under that umbrella. And it's just for you to have an awareness around it and highlight any concerns. There is a definition on there. It's the persistent failure to meet a child's basic oral health needs likely to result in the serious impairment of a child's oral health or general health or development. So that's the definition. And things to look out for from your point of view would be sort of really obvious dental decay to a non-dental professional. If it's very obvious in the mouth, the impact that it's having on the child, if they keep complaining of toothache, they're having difficulty eating, and it's affecting them in, you know, many different ways. And also if you're finding that you're advising families and you're trying to work with families, that's the first port of call. But if you feel that they're not addressing the issues, then you could potentially raise this as a potential safeguarding concern. But the idea is that we work with families and we try and help them along the way, because sometimes it's just a lack of education, and that's why we do this training. But do speak to your safeguarding leads if you do have any concerns.
So there's 3 key messages to good oral health, and these are what we're going to cover today. The first one is brushing. The second one is diet, and the third one is visiting the dentist. So just a quick question for you. Why is good oral care important? Why is it important to look after our teeth? What are the effects of it? You can just shout out.
Just have a little guess, shout out or chuck in. Don't need
don't worry
to
about
put
putting
your
hands up.
That's fine.
Like
has a knock-on effect on all sorts of health, doesn't it?
Sorry?
It has a knock-on effect on all different aspects of health, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Actually, like
yeah,
inflammation in the gums can spread to, I don't know, heart, brain, whatever's.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that is one of the main points of it. So we talk about there's 5 main reasons to have good oral care. And when we're talking about good oral care, we're not just talking about the teeth, we are talking about the mouth as a whole, so all the soft tissues as well. So the main reasons it affects our overall health, to give us prevention of pain and suffering, adequate nutrition, quality of life and comfort, and quite an important one is communication, socialization and appearance. So if you do have children or adults who have very decayed teeth that are very visible, it can actually make them very introvert and not want to socialize and very conscious of it. So it's something that sometimes we don't associate, but it can actually play a big part in a child's growing up and their development, because they could be so conscious of their teeth that they may not join in. So poor oral health impacts in so many ways. But first of all, we have to think about school readiness and time off work. Children can need additional dental appointments, or they might be off from school, they're in pain. So this does cause absences. And this also can affect the parents as well, having to take time off work. Being in pain or discomfort or having an infection can really reduce the quality of life. Children can really cry with pain. If you've had toothache yourself, you know how bad this can be and how it can disrupt your life, and it can also disrupt the whole family life. You might not get sleep if you're up at night time because a child or someone in the family does have dental pain. It can also mean if they have infections that they have to have repeated antibiotics, so that can affect them as well. As I've said, disrupted sleep is a big part of it. It does also affect speech development. As we said before, self-confidence and socialization, it really can affect a child. It can stop them playing. They may be bullied. So it's really something we have to consider. We talked about inadequate nutrition as well. If you're in pain or you have missing teeth, you might not be able to eat all the food groups that you need. So it's quite important to think about if someone has had bad oral care, they might not be getting the nutrients that they need from all their food. And there's one other thing we talk about is the perception of the dentist as well. It's really important. One of the things we want to encourage is early visits from a really early age, so that your perception of the dentist, it's just somewhere you go, you have your teeth checked and you're used to these surroundings. A lot of the time that doesn't happen, and the first experience you may have as a child is if you're in pain or you need a tooth taken out. So it changes that perception. Most adults who have to have sedation for treatment, it normally stems from a childhood experience. They had something happen to them as a child, and it really does affect them for life. So we want to change that going to the dentist is somewhere fun that you go every 6 months. You show the dentist your mouth, they may add some fluoride and get a sticker, and that really does then set the routine for going on into adult life, to go to those early appointments and be comfortable to have treatment if necessary.
It affects their learning as well.
Sorry?
it affects their learning end of the day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And the learning as well. If you think back to the 2-year-old that I mentioned that had the 16 teeth removed, we have 20 primary teeth. So 16 of those have gone. That child has then got those few teeth left right up until 6, 7, when the bigger teeth start coming through. And it's going to affect all of those things on the screen. If you think about it, speech development, socialization, it's going to be hard to make those friendship groups. As you say, it'll impact on learning for that reason. They'll have a time off school. They must have been in pain, had infection, quality of sleep. So that child would have been impacted in that way. And it's not uncommon. That's the worrying thing. Like, that isn't a one-off. Sarah sees this all the time in her clinics.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked community dentistry for 5 years now, and we will see in clinic, say 6 or 7 patients a day. And all of them, it's not just one tooth they're coming, it's multiple teeth. On average, I would say most children will need fillings in about 6 to 8 teeth. So, and it's very simple messages that can be changed, but it does impact the whole life. You know, the parents do get a bit stressed with us because their school are on at them, because they're missing time off school where they're in pain or they've had to collect them. And also as well, the appointments, they need possible several appointments for treatment. So it really does impact your whole life. It's not just that one visit to the dentist and a bit of pain. It's everything. So what we want to do is establish really good oral care routines from a really young age. So I just want to ask a few questions, see what your knowledge is, and then we'll take it from there. So how many times a day should we be brushing our teeth?
2 times.
2? Yeah.
2.
Wonderful. And when is the most important time to brush?
When you wake up,
After
when you go to bed.
After sugar
After
food.
breakfast and after dinner.
Lovely. Yep. And how long should we brush for?
2 minutes.
2
Oh, someone knows
2
them. You look very good. You're very pleased when you said that. Yeah, 2 minutes. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. So as we said, brushing is really important, but what are we removing? Why do we brush our teeth? And what we do is we're removing something called plaque. So plaque is a clear sticky film that adheres to the teeth, and this is constantly forming in our mouths all day. You might feel sometimes by the end of the day that your teeth and your tongue can feel a bit furry, like something's building up on it. So that is the plaque. And you can see it on this picture here. If it's left on the gum and tooth surface, it can lead to gum disease, which can eventually lead to tooth loss. And it also plays a part in dental decay as well. So when we have the plaque on our teeth and we eat sugar in our diet, this produces an acid, and that makes an acid attack on our teeth, which softens the teeth, and it's at that time that decay can happen. So what we want to talk about a lot today, we do have sugar in our diet. We're not going to change that, but there is times of the day that it's actually safer to consume sugar than not. So a bit further on, I'm going to talk to you about diet and when it is safe to do that. So we talked about brushing, and we've said about it taking 2 minutes. So I'm just going to play a video for you now, and this shows sort of gold standard brushing, how we should be doing it. It is subtitled if you can't hear the sound, but we will recap afterwards some of the main messages. It does take a second to kick in, so but hopefully you should be able to hear it.
साले यार वापस को कॉल करती है फिर
Yeah, if you couldn't see that, I saw somebody did say that they couldn't. We can send that video out to you, no problem at all.
Thanks, Sarah. So hopefully most of you were able to hear that video and see that video. Did you learn anything from it? Was there anything different? And don't be shy to say, because lots of people admit that there was.
I always use mouthwash.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's okay. There's always one person that will say that, and most people are probably thinking the same. Anything else?
Sorry, I didn't catch the end of it.
Okay.
However, I went to the dentist a little while ago and they said about not rinsing your mouth out after you've brushed your teeth.
Yeah, that's right. It's one of the key messages, and one we would love you to get out there as well. So when we brush our teeth, we just want to spit out the excess toothpaste and don't rinse with water or a mouthwash after. If you do like to use a mouthwash, it's not recommended in children anyway, but for yourselves, if you do like to use a mouthwash, then just use it at a different time to brushing, maybe after lunch, or you could use it before you brush and do it that way instead. The reason is you don't want to wash off the fluoride that you've already just put on your teeth to protect them. And mouthwash, although it might have fluoride in, which most of them do, it won't have anywhere near the amount of fluoride in it that you need to protect your teeth. So that's why you're just going to wash it off and replace it with a lesser amount. The video kind of is more adult focused in terms of the toothbrush size. We want to encourage the small head. The small head is good for everyone, but for children particularly, and a softer brush rather than the sort of medium textured brush. That would be the differences there. And it doesn't, did it mention clean the tongue? I can't remember if it does, but clean the tongue after as well, because you do get quite a lot of bacteria that will collect in the little grooves on the tongue as well. So clean the tongue at the end of brushing and then spit out. So children under 8 should be supervised as well. That's another key message. So of course, children are going to want to have a go at brushing their teeth. They'll get to an age, maybe 3 or 4, where they really want to do it themselves. And that is absolutely fine. Let them have a go. We want to encourage that because they need to learn how to do it, but they won't do it thoroughly at that age, obviously. So we would then say encourage parents to then have a go afterwards as well to make sure they do get a good clean, and supervise them right up until the age of 8, some even beyond. I mean, I have an 8-year-old and I definitely still have to watch him now, because if he could get away with it, he would, with only doing a few seconds. So I think, you do have to monitor that quite a bit. Toothbrushes to be replaced every 3 months, unless they become splayed. Sometimes with children, they chew down on the brush and you'll find that the bristles will splay out. You're not going to get an effective brush from that. So you will need to replace that, whichever one comes first. And for some of your groups of children, this will be relevant, but interdental cleaning is recommended from the age of 12 when they've got their adult teeth, and that's cleaning between the teeth using floss or interdental brushes. So that's from the age of 12. So which toothpaste do you like to use? There's no right or wrong answer here. What do you like to use? What's your favourite? Do you just use what's on offer? Is there something you've always used? What do you
Whichever's
like?
on the club card deal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. Yep.
I use the
Oral-B, yep.
the Colgate, the Catalyst, where it's like a teeth enhanced whitening.
Okay. Yep.
Use Sensodyne, I think it's called.
Sensodyne, yep. Yeah, that's a popular one as well. Yep. Yeah, I mean, generally people do say the big brand names, which is absolutely fine. But to be honest, it doesn't matter what brand you use. It's the amount of fluoride in it that counts. So you can get your own supermarket brand, so it doesn't have to be expensive. And as long as it has the correct amount in it, that's the main thing. We'll talk a bit more about how much in a second. The only ones we do say to avoid are like the charcoal smokers. Not that children are going to be using these, but for yourselves, charcoal smokers and some of the whitening toothpaste, we would definitely recommend avoiding, because they sometimes don't have enough fluoride in. They can be quite abrasive on the teeth. Some of them don't have fluoride in at all. So yeah, they're the ones that we would say to avoid. So this is the toothpaste guidance. This has come from the Delivering Better Oral Health Toolkit, where all our evidence comes from. So for children aged up to 3 years, you want to use a smear of toothpaste. And as you can see on the screen, it really is a tiny dab on the top there, because they're likely to swallow it and we don't want them to do that. So until they're old enough to spit out, they've said up to 3 years, but they can be beyond that. So use a smear until they're able to spit out of toothpaste but containing, at least 1,000 parts per million fluoride, and that will be on the back of the tube of toothpaste. You'll see it there. And then children aged 3 to 6 years, you can move on to a pea-sized amount as soon as they can spit out. And this goes beyond up to adult age. You don't need any more than this pea-sized amount here. And again, containing at least 1,000. So the fluoride content is the same. It's just the amount that actually changes. Most toothpaste will have about 1,450. That's perfect. Like, that is optimum, and that's what we want to aim for. So in theory, everyone can use the same toothpaste. It might just be that you'll have to change the amount, or younger children may not like the really strong spicy toothpaste that we would use as adults. So that's where you might have to get more children's focused ones. Any children aged 0 to 6 giving concern, basically children with additional needs or children that have very obvious dental decay, it would be recommended they definitely use that higher amount, the 1,350 to the 1,500. So really everyone to aim for the 1,450, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Good, sorry, I hope that is clear. Brilliant. And then from 7 years, the recommendation is to go on to the adult toothpaste officially. And again, pea-sized amount and spit out after brushing. So that's the amounts. So that's what you can include in the information that you give when you do your oral health days later in the Easter holidays. I believe this information, a lot of the tips are on the brushing charts that you're going to have anyway. There'll be a little note to parents which will say how much fluoride to have in anyway. So you won't necessarily have to remember that. So that moves us quite nicely onto this, which is money saving tips. And I understand that a lot of your families are sort of benefit based or low income families. So when it comes to oral health, cost can be a real issue. So there was a report done called The Tooth Hurts by Beauty Banks. And there was a really good report about, the cost of oral health and how it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and we've kind of covered the main things. But this poster, and I've sent it to Mel, who'll be able to share this with you. You can share this on your social media or any platform where you have contact with families, just to give them a few tips around toothpaste, not having to use the big brands, how much to use, making sure you use the whole tube, and that kind of information there, just to help them out a bit.
Just to add to that as well, I was currently I did go to a food bank, and they do actually get provided with quite a few oral health products. So if you do have any families that are accessing food banks, then do mention to them that it's worth asking. They had everything from toothbrushes, toothpaste, floss. They were very well provided. So it's also worth asking there as well.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah.
So I'm just going to go back a bit to dental caries. So we talked about the plaque and the effect with sugar in the mouth, and what happens is we get dental caries or dental decay, and it's the main cause of hospital admissions for 5 to 9-year-olds. It's not about the amount of sugar that's consumed, but it's the frequency. So for example, you're fine if you have a chocolate bar, but what I want you to do is eat it all in one go, which is absolutely no problem for me at all. What you don't want to do is to break that up into several small bits and eat it throughout the day, because then your mouth is constantly having that sugar attack and your teeth can't recover. So it's very good to look at what sugars we have and where we have them in our diet. One of the biggest things in younger children that this does happen is milk from a bottle, and this can cause decay, which is called bottle caries. So milk does have natural sugars in it, And what happens is if a child does use a bottle after 1 and they are drinking milk constantly through that bottle and through the night, then milk pools around those teeth and can cause bottle caries. So you may have seen this. It's normally very active on the front 4 teeth, and that's the reason for it. One thing that's also actually rising more is dental erosion. So this is caused by the consumption of acidic foods and drinks. And what it does, it's dissolving that, softening the enamel, which is the hard open surface of the teeth. So this can cause a lot of pain and sensitivity, and it is irreversible. So once we start noticing it, we really do have to change our diet and the drinks that we consume to prevent it going any so if you look at this picture, this is a 12-year-old, and you can just see on the end that it's almost translucent. So that's the beginning of erosion. So we want to look at that. If someone is starting to show that, they could start getting the sensitivity, and it can be quite painful as well. So erosion is on the rise, is rising mainly because of the increased consumption of fizzy drinks, including diet brands. So a lot of the time, if we do have people and they're drinking fizzy drinks, we say to go for a diet. So that does remove the sugar and it reduces the risk of dental decay. But what it doesn't reduce is this risk of erosion. So this also applies with any carbonated drinks, including sparkling water. We also have to look at acidic food and drinks, which can include this as well. So things like pickles, citrus fruits, fruit juices and squashes. So again, we wouldn't say don't have fruit juice, but when you're having it, have it with a meal. And because your teeth are going to be so much softer because of the acid, that's where the we do say don't brush for at least half an hour to an hour after eating or drinking. But especially if you are having acidic fruits and drinks, then you need to leave that hour before you brush your teeth, because the teeth are softer and you are just wearing into that enamel. Also as well, another one to watch just with that is overbrushing. So if you do have someone who is really overbrushing, then maybe swap to an electric toothbrush, which was they have sensitivity sort of markers and they will beep if you're pushing too hard. This brings us nicely on to diet. And diet really plays an important part in our overall oral and general health. And as I've said before, it's really important to be mindful of the sugar content in the foods and drinks that we're consuming or giving our children. Anything sweet or fizzy is best to consume with a main meal. And it's really good, you know, when we're looking at the foods and drinks we're buying, to look at the traffic markers. So if anything is showing up red on there, we would say to avoid, and anything that's amber, we would recommend that is just given as a treat occasionally and with meal times. So we've talked about the sugar and how it causes acid in our teeth. So ideally what we want is no more than 4 acid attacks a day. So if we look at this graph, if we had someone who just had their breakfast, lunch, dinner and 1 snack a day, this is the pH of their mouth. So when they have their breakfast, the acid level would drop, so the teeth are softer and vulnerable. So they would eat, then the saliva in the mouth would neutralize the acid and would bring it up to nice safe levels. So then they would be quite fine. Then they would have their lunch and their dinner and their supper. So this again is important. At night time, we don't have saliva. So anything we eat last thing at night, and then we don't brush our teeth, for example, would stay on the teeth and would not be washed away by the saliva, and those acidic levels would be there. So your teeth would be under attack all night. So if we go back as well to the milk, if children are having milk all night or just sucking through a bottle, it's just resting on their teeth and it can cause damage to them. So this is kind of ideally what we want, but most people mouths won't be like this. What we'll do is we'll have our breakfast, then we might have a cup of tea and a biscuit, have a snack. So what we want to do is to cut out those middle acid attacks so that this is how the mouth looks. So it doesn't mean that we can't have snacks, and there are some tooth-friendly foods or drinks. So fruit is fine. And although it does have natural sugar, it is classed as tooth friendly as long as it is kept in its natural state. but it's fine. You can have vegetables, breadsticks, cheese. If you want yogurt, swap to something like Greek yogurt is a healthy alternative because some of the flavoured ones do have a lot of sugar in them. And the best drink to have in between meals is our water. So there is tooth unfriendly foods and drinks. So some of them on this page are very obvious, the sweets, but there's some that aren't as much. And dried fruits such as raisins are very bad for the teeth and are very sugar enhanced. When you dry fruit, all that's left behind is the sugar element. So if you imagine, if you're giving raisins as snacks, which a lot of schools have now stopped doing, all you do is you eat that and it's stuck on the teeth and will stay there until the teeth are brushed. So it does cause a very big acid attack. Drinks like fruit juices, no added squashes. They are called no added squash because they do have natural sugars in them. They're not sugar free. So it's quite important to not confuse that. Smoothies as well, again, because you've taken fruit out of its natural form, are very high in sugar. We're not saying don't have things like this, but we want to have them with meals. Like lots of people have smoothies, even the ones you make at home. They're great for your health, but make sure you attach them to a meal and not choose them as a snack in between. Yogurt as well, be very wary of flavoured yogurts. Things like fromage frais, petit filou, they can have quite a few cubes of sugar in them. So we'll talk about it a bit more and you'll see the amount. It's very surprising. And flavoured waters as well. Again, because they have that flavour added to them, they are not sugar free. This takes us on to hidden sugars. So there's many foods and medicines out there that do contain hidden sugars. Some people know about ketchup is full of sugar, baked beans, cereals. A lot of the cereals aimed at children are very high in sugar, but there are also things that we class as hidden sugars. So things like the fruit flakes, these drinks, these ones actually even say on them that they are school compliant, but they do have sugar in them. They are kind of advertised as healthy, which they are, but they're not tooth healthy, and that's a big difference and something to keep an eye on as well. Also with medicines as well, always ask for sugar-free and low sugar medicines when possible. And I'll hand you back over. Does anyone have any questions on that actually before we go on about hidden sugars or anything sort of surprised them, foods that they thought were okay for children that have sugar in them?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
What about if we get water for children and add the fruit into it?
Yeah, again, in what way? Do you mean like chopped up or?
Yeah.
Okay, it would be better, but if you're chopping fruits up that are acidic, it can change the water levels. So then you are at the risk of erosion as well. So if you keep the fruit whole, I know it will flavour it, but it would still be having the natural sugars in them. So it is still more of a risk for the teeth. So,
right, okay, thank you.
So obviously you can have that maybe if you like it with a meal, but in between you are safer just to not have that and just drink water or milk.
Trying to get plain water down a child is hard.
Absolutely. No, we do understand that. And that's why we kind of say, you know, you can make these changes very gradually. And if they're, I mean, I know some children can be incredibly stubborn and say, well, if I'm not having my squash, I'm not drinking at all. So look at the meal times, maybe give them a bigger drink then, and then slowly over time start to slowly reduce the amount of squash you add it so it's more and more diluted. Don't just put it away straight away because children are just not going to do that. What you kind of want to do is just slowly reduce it and change the habits over a long period of time. But yeah, no, I understand. Mine fought it until they're a lot older and now do just drink a lot of water. They're in their late teenage years, but just still say, okay, you can have your squash, but have a big glass now. You can have another one with your dinner, but in between maybe try to introduce stuff that's more tooth friendly.
Thank you.
Okay.
In terms of meal times in your settings, do they bring packed lunches in generally? Is that generally what you would encourage, or do you provide meals?
Most of the clubs will, they'll provide meals. Well, they'll have to provide meals for all of the children unless they have a paid for offer, where some children might bring their own packed lunches in.
Right, perfect. Okay, so you will have some kind of agency over what you offer then, I guess, in that respect, in terms of snacks and the meals themselves. That's brilliant. So hopefully you'll be able to if there's any like raisins creeping in there, which lots of schools and nurseries were doing, and they're trying to pull back on that now, just things like that and making those changes will really help as well, and encouraging, you know, as you say, water as much as you can. So these are the maximum amounts of added sugar recommended for the different age groups. I'll just let you have a quick look at that because I'm aware of time and we've still got a few things to get through. So just maybe focus on, say, 3 to 4 year olds. So for your age group, 4 to 6 year olds, mostly, they've got to be school age, haven't they, I presume?
Yeah, we're working with all school age children. So
all school age.
Yeah, from
4 so the 4 to 6. So their maximum would be like 5 sugar cubes in a day, and then your older group maybe 6 for your 7 to 10 year olds. Just bearing that in mind. Just going to have a quick game with you and just chuck some ideas out. Don't worry about getting it wrong. It's only for fun. How much sugar do you think might be in a small petit filou? You can use sugar cubes, the amount of sugar cubes, or grams, or however you prefer to work. But just have a guess. What do you think might be in a small petit?
Half a cube, maybe.
How many?
Half a cube.
Half a cube. Okay, thank you.
10 cubes.
Oh, you're going to go full in for
4.
10. Okay. Yeah.
4 cubes.
Okay, in one of those petit filous, there's 2 cubes of sugar just in one petit filou, and they're tiny, and a child can easily have 2 of those in a day, couldn't they, for their dessert, particularly younger children. I know you're not focused on the younger children so much, but just to give you an idea. What do you think about the innocent smoothies based on what we've said today? They're 150 mils, they're only small. How many sugar cubes do you think might be in one of those?
I think 3.
Okay.
I would say a bit higher than 3 because they've got all the natural sugars in them as well from the fruits.
Yep.
Like 4 to 5.
Okay, thank you. I'll reveal that one. So, yep, it's almost 4 cubes in one of those. So you have your smoothie and you have your yogurt. You've already got 6 cubes of sugar just in those 2 items. That and more would easily be in a packed lunchbox for a child. So, and innocently done. That's the issue, isn't it? Is they would both be seen as very healthy products, but from an oral health point of view, that could cause a lot of trouble. What about number 3? They are yogurt coated raisins. How many sugar cubes do you think might be in one of those? They're a tiny little packet.
2.5.
2.5?
Yeah.
5, I think, because you've got the yogurt and the raisin.
Yeah, yep.
I agree.
I'd go for 3.
Yep. Okay, thank you. We'll reveal that one. Yeah, it's 4. It's a lot in just that tiny packet of yogurt flavoured covered raisins. And again, there's something that might be seen as quite a healthy snack. So quite surprising. And then last but not least is our little Barney Bears, a little chocolate one. They're very tiny. You've probably seen them. What do you think might be in one of those?
6.
This is going to break my heart. My little sister introduced me to these and I love them. 7.
Okay, well, I think you might be pleasantly surprised. 1.7, so nearly 2 cubes in there. So it's still a lot, but in comparison to, say, you know, your innocent smoothie, it's, you know, a lot less. And your yogurt flavored raisins, and actually you would think the Barney Bear one would be the highest, wouldn't you, and the less favorable one in terms of a healthy snack. So we just like to do that. It's just to raise your awareness around some snacks that maybe you have in your settings or that you have in your packed lunch boxes. You could raise this awareness with parents, because a lot of the time they don't know, and it's completely innocently done.
I think the interesting thing with this is just to say that if you were given all those 4 and said which one is too friendly, the one with the least sugar is the bear, and it probably wouldn't be the one you'd pick. You'd go more towards the yogurt or the smoothie, and that's where it's really important to read the back for these sugar, for the amounts of sugar in things.
Yep, definitely. This slide is just to raise your awareness on the Healthy Start scheme. So I'm wondering if you're aware of it within your settings, and if you're not, then it's for low-income families or women who are pregnant who have children under the age of 4. There is a criteria you have to meet, and then they get their Healthy Start. They get money each month on a card, and they can get their Healthy Start vitamins as well. So it's just something to be aware of if you've got some children with younger siblings and parents with younger siblings, that it might be something they could apply for. Something like 50% of people don't apply for this that are actually eligible. So again, this is something you could promote throughout the year on your social media platform. So I just thought I'd bring that one up just in case you weren't aware of that.
Is that a new program? Because it popped up on Facebook a couple of days ago. I've never heard of it.
That's coincidence, isn't it? It's been around for a long time, but I think there's been a lot more promotion around it, and it has changed in that you get payments on a card, so you can go into a supermarket and use that like a debit card to pay for. It is certain products like healthy things, obviously your fruit, your vegetables, milk, baby's first infant milk. It's things like that, and then you get your vitamins as well. So it's a really good scheme, and so many people don't apply for it. So yeah, I mean, we can give you this information, you can share away. Some of your parents might be interested in that. So accessing dentistry, we know this is really, really hard. It's really hard to get into an NHS dentist at the moment. There's hardly any availability, and we know this across Essex. It's not great. It's better than other areas, but it's still not great. You can try and find a dentist via the search engine on NHS, and you just pop in a postcode. It will give you all the dentists local to you. You can have a ring round and see which ones are taking on, but it is really hard, and that's why this information is so important, because we want to do the preventative work in the background, because, you know, before the problems start in the first place. But we do know it's really tricky. It is free for children up to the age of 18 or 19 if they're in full-time education, and pregnant women are also exempt up until their child's first birthday as well. In an emergency, you can use the NHS 111. They've got a dental helpline to support anyone that's in an emergency that doesn't have a dentist, and they will find you a dentist for that emergency, but you won't be registered with them. If any of you are registered with a dentist and you haven't been for a while, I would strongly advise you to get in contact with them, because you will fall off the register. You need to be going regularly to your appointments. It's not a given that once you've registered, you're registered. There's no such thing really as a registration, and you can go anywhere. It's not like catchment areas. You can go anywhere, any town as well. So we just thought we'd bring that to your attention as well.
I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but if you do have any children who are in your care who have a fall or a seizure and they do lose a tooth, then you can follow this procedure to help prevent the tooth from being lost. You can just download the poster for this and have it in your settings. This does only apply for adult teeth, but the basics behind it is that if you're able to, if the tooth has come out whole, you can implant the tooth back in. You can buy it on a handkerchief and take them to the dentist, and then there is a good chance that that tooth can be re-implanted. We can only do this with adult teeth. So if you have someone who falls and a tooth falls out, if you're not sure if it's a baby tooth or an adult tooth, or you don't feel confident, or the child is too distressed, all you need to do is to put the tooth into milk and take them straight to a dentist. If there is a trauma like this in your care, you don't have to make an appointment. You can just go to that child's dentist. If they don't have a dentist, you can just phone a local dentist. They may accommodate you. If not, you would go to A&E. If any child does have none of the teeth come out, but they do have a fall while in your care and bash the mouth, sometimes the teeth don't react for 2 to 3 weeks afterwards. So what we would suggest is that you still tell the parents that they do need to take to the dentist to just have a checkup on your teeth. I say I won't go into this anymore, but this is available and you can have it in your settings. So during the Easter holidays, we've been told that you are going to pick a day where you're going to focus on oral health. So an activity pack is going to be provided for the children, and this will include oral health activities. They'll be given toothpaste, toothbrushes, and a brushing chart will be provided. So it'd be really good if you can set up a brushing challenge. It'd be set and you know, just to get to encourage them to use those brushing charts at home and get brushing. It's quite important that the children are aware of the key messages of brushing. So some are on the chart already, and you can use the information that you've seen today. One of the things you can do is to watch a video on how to brush your teeth. There are some really good ones out there. Dr. Ranj does some really good ones, or if you're using younger children, there's lots of resources on our website that you can go to play these videos and just demonstrate the correct brushing. But it's really important just to emphasize the key messages when you're teaching them how to brush their teeth. So the key messages is what we've gone over today. So brushing twice a day with a fluoride toothpaste, brushing for 2 minutes and reminding them to include all surfaces of the teeth, to brush before bedtime and one other time in the day, preferably in the morning after breakfast. After brushing, we want them to spit out the excess toothpaste and do not rinse. That's one of the most important messages that you can get through. And just advise them avoid sugary snacks and drinks between meals, and just to visit the dentist regularly. There's a lot of fun brushing apps out there that you could also tell them about to encourage brushing. Aquafresh, Oral-B have a Disney app one, Pokemon Smile have one as well that you can use. You can also get a lot of resources from nationalsmilemonth.org, and as a community dental services, we have some links for family fun, which can really encourage brushing at home and brushing together as a family to get into that routine. Other useful resources that you can use, Dental Buddy is a program that provides loads of educational resources for early years education, key stage 1 and 2. This can include activity sheets, lesson plans and presentations. They're all free to download. The Change for Life website has a lot of good advice as well. Be very careful with some of their dietary advice, because some of it's based on just general health and some of that doesn't correlate with the oral health because of the hidden sugars in some things. But they do have some really good little pull-out cards that you can get, which includes a food scanner app, which you can scan foods and it will tell you the amount of sugar cubes in there. As I said, our website has it, and there's lots of promotional videos like Dr. Ranj, Hey Dougie and CBeebies and My First Dentist. If you do have any families where English isn't their first language, our website does have the Reach Deck function. So if you just press that on our website, it can actually translate into over 100 different languages. So other training and support that we can give you, we offer free oral health training to any professionals working with children or vulnerable adults in Essex. So the training you've had today is a cut down version. We do a more in-depth one. So if you're interested in that, please get in touch and we can provide that for you. We can help with health promotion materials, and just contact us if you have any questions or anything you think of leading up to your oral health day. Please feel free to email us and we'll get back to you with some ideas or some more resources and links for you. So do you have any questions?
Mel will upload all the resources for you as well, and you'll obviously receive your activity packs and your toothbrushing packs as well. So hope you can have some fun with that. There are lots of other ideas, you know, like junk modelling. You can use junk modelling to make big toothbrushes, painting with toothbrushes, but I know it's whether you've got the resources to do that. I understand that's not always straightforward. But yeah, if you've got any questions, please ask.
I've only got one very quick one. What should we do when we're giving advice in terms of thumb suckers?
Oh, good question. Sarah, do you want to answer that or do you want me to?
No, you can go for that one. I'm fine.
Yeah, okay, yep. So thumb sucking is a really tricky one. So we talk about dummies and thumb sucking because they have kind of a very similar effect. So the effects of that is you're going to get the teeth growing at funny angles. It's going to impact speech as well. So with dummies particularly, you'll notice if children have them beyond the age of 6 months, when they start to speak, they'll start talking through the dummy, so they won't pronounce their sounds correctly. So there are some long-term effects on how the adult teeth grow through as well. So thumb sucking, you can apply a nail biting solution to the thumbnail from the age of 3, but just to the thumbnail, and that could work as a deterrent. The other thing you can do is when you notice them, I mean, it depends on their age, of course. If they're old enough to understand, you could talk to them about the long-term effects that it could have if they continue to do the thumb sucking. It's the nighttime sucking that's really tricky to break, because dummies you can just take away. You can't dispose of the thumb, obviously. So that is really tricky. But during the day, you can only distract them as best you can. If you notice it in your setting that they're sucking their thumb, try and distract them from it, get them to do something, get them involved in something else, and just talk to them in a positive way about it. But it is really hard. It's so hard to break. You still see teenagers, don't you, sometimes still sucking their thumb at night. It happens. So that's it really. So the nail biting solution is probably quite a good deterrent, but from the age of 3 and only to the thumbnail, not on the thumb skin.
Lovely, thank you.
That's okay. We have got some leaflets around thumb sucking and dummy use on our website at communitydentalservices.co.uk. If you go there, we've got loads of resources on there. You can download any of the leaflets, you can give them out. And we've got a YouTube channel, which is really useful. And there's lots of videos on there about going to the dentist, how to brush, just very child friendly resources there.
Super, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you for the invite. We've just had a really nice message on there, so that's great. Yeah, and we can send you lots of extra resources, no problem at all.
Yeah, so we'll leave the code up. This will get you your certificate. We are manually having to do these certificates, unfortunately, so it might take us a while. We'll get our admin lady to do those for us, but do give us a couple of weeks at least to sort of get those out to you, but you will receive one. Is there anything else, Mel, that you would like us to... Are you happy with the Oral Health Focus Day, what we've covered for that?
Yeah, as long as there's no questions, I suppose it's been sent out in like a sort of an email, and like I said, like you said, there's information in the activity packs. All of these resources that you've mentioned, the slides, the recording of this will be put onto the partner hub as well. And it's kind of just up to the club, just to depends on, like you say, your resources, your skill set. To do something on your oral health day, and just to if you can take some photos, even if you can't take photos of your actual children for any reason, then just take pictures of what you're doing or what you create during your oral health day, and just tag us in it so we can see what you've been doing. And really appreciate you helping us share the messages for the obvious reasons that you've said on the course. So thank you so much. I found it really interesting. So hopefully everyone else did. And if you haven't, I will pass on your contact as well to everyone who's booked on.
Please do.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'd recommend on your Oral Health Focus Day, if you can at least do like a demonstration of brushing. You can use the video that we used today if you just want to recap on anything, and just get them to brush, not get them to brush there in the setting, but show them how to brush correctly, and then they can go home and practice that with their family. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some extra children brushing, which will be fantastic. It'd be lovely to hear and get some feedback as well of what you have done. We'd love to hear more.
Yeah, and just to reiterate that we have the dental packs that will be handed out on the collection days, and just to choose a day to hand them all out. And of course appreciate not everyone will get one, because you might have different children attending on each day, and that's why we said, if you want to give out a certificate in line with the brushing charts that you're giving out, then you can. But obviously some children may not be in for that day and may not get a pack for that reason, because we understand it's not a school setting, it's different children each day potentially. So it's up to you how you want to manage it. And if you want to give out any sort of rewards and certificates afterwards, but we will have the packs. If you have any left over, you can disseminate them however you'd like to across the other days of your club. So welcome to manage it how you'd like to, and just let us know what you get up to that day, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Unless you've got any questions, you are free to leave. Sorry, we've gone over a bit there. I thought that we might actually, but it's good. We like it to be interactive.
Yeah, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice evening, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.